videos on half-life equations. So there are two methods you can use depending on what variables you are given. So if you are given your t1/2, which is your half-life, and the total time that elapses, which is capital T, you can determine your number of half-lives by taking the total time divided by the time it takes for one half-life to get your number of half-lives, which makes sense. If you're given your initial mass, which is Mi, and your final mass, which is Mf, you can divide your initial mass by 2 until you reach your final mass to figure out how many times it takes to divide by 2, aka a half-life, until you reach your final mass to figure out how many half-lives have passed. So really two things that we use to determine the unknown value in our half-life equations. So example number 1 tells you the half-life of nitrogen-13 is 10 minutes. If the starting sample had a mass of 2.00 grams, how much will remain after 40 minutes? So we're told that our half-life is 10 minutes, our initial mass is 2 grams, and our total time is 40 minutes. So this relates back here. I'm told my total time and my half-life time, so I can determine my number of half-lives. So t minus t1/2, 40 minus 10 gives me 4. So 4 half-lives have occurred. So that means that 4 times my mass was divided in half. So my first half-life occurred 2, my initial mass 2 grams divided by 2, so I was left with 1 gram. Then 1 gram went under another half-life, so divided by 2 gives me half of a gram. That was my second half-life. Then my half gram divided by 2 gives me 0.25. So my third half-life. And now my fourth half-life, my 0.25 grams divided by 2 gives me 0.125 grams. So now my final mass is 0.125 grams. So I just figured out how many half-lives occurred and divided my initial mass that many times by 2. So go ahead and try your practice problem number 1, and then your answer is listed here. You're going to follow those same steps. Okay, example 2. If 200 grams of an isotope decays to 25 grams in 24 seconds, what is the half-life? So another situation. This time, we're given our initial mass and final mass and the total time that elapses. So first thing I need to do is figure out how many, or how long my half-life was, or how many half-lives I have. So I start by figuring out how many half-lives. So I take my 200 and I divide it by 2. So that would be my first half-life. This is number 1. That's 100 grams. I want 25. So that wasn't one half-life. So I have my 100 divided by 2 gives me 50 grams. So that was half-life number 2. Still not what I want. So I take my 50 grams divided by 2, 25 grams. So that's half-life number 3. So that tells me I have 3 half-lives. My total time that it takes is 24 seconds. So how many half-lives would fit into that 24 seconds? Well, t divided by t1/2 gives me my number of half-lives. So I multiply both sides by t1/2 divided by 3. In other words, my total time divided by my number of half-lives equals my half-life time. So my total time of 24 seconds divided by 3 gives me my time of my half-life, which is 8 seconds. So go ahead now and try practice problem number 2, following the same steps, and your answer is listed here. Example number 3 says that your half-life of iodine-131 is 8.07 days. If 25 grams are left after 40.35 days, how many grams were in the original sample? So here I'm looking for my initial mass. I've been given my half-life of 8.07 days, my final mass of 25 grams, and my total time of 40.35 days. I want to know my original mass. So what I need to do first is figure out how many half-lives occurred. So my number of half-lives is equal to t over t1/2 So 40.35 over my 8.07 is equal to 5. And so that means that some mass was cut in half 5 times to give me 25 grams. So I'm just going to go the opposite direction. I'm going to multiply 25 times 2 5 times to figure out my initial mass. So I start with 25 times 2 to give me 50. This was number 1. Number 2 is that 50 times 2 to give me 100. 3 is my 100 times 2, give me 200. 4 is my 200 times 2 to give me 400. And number 5 is my 400 times 2 to give me 800. So that means 800 grams was my initial mass. They were cut in half 5 times to give me a mass of 25 grams. So go ahead and try practice problem number 3. Your answer is listed here.